Yes, sir, we're officially back at it. This is Boog Nights coming at you with the Star Wars Black Series 6-inch Grand Moff Tarkin figure review. Let's do it.
This ain't for no scalper. You a scalper? Then fuck out shit. This one's for them real collectors. That's army building and posing figures. Marvel Legends, imports, mini matey I'm fucking with. Hype beast, we know about you. Stay buying figs, don't know about it.
Alright, so I got Grand Moff Tarkin out of the package. I'll go over his bio real quick. It reads, an ambitious, ruthless proponent of military power, Wilhuff Tarkin became a favorite of Emperor Palpatine and rose rapidly through the Imperial ranks. I'm not going to spend too much time on this guy. This will be a quickie. You know I have a love-hate relationship with Star Wars Black Series. Mostly hate, because I feel like Black Series has not really made too many strides in the line over the time that they've been offering 6-inch figures. They refuse to add more articulation and accessories, and really articulation that you need on certain figures. So you can't have a figure that wields a lightsaber or uses a gun and you want them to have a real military-esque stance when you pose them and they not have double jointed elbows. It's just, you know, a lot of little things here and there, and I don't think that they are out of money or hurting for money in any way, so I don't know why they're not really making more advancements in the line like you see with Marvel Legends. You know, they're both Hasbro products. This is something that I've spoken about plenty of times on the A.C.B.A podcast and so on and so forth. So not going to rant for too long, but let's take a closer look at his deco. And you know what, actually, before we do that, he does come with one accessory, and that is something that I have griped about with some Star Wars Black Series figures, is that they don't come with enough accessories sometimes. So, if correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is the interrogation droid, and it comes on a little stand here that's kind of like on a little ball peg, so you can kind of move it around, and you can see these little doodads and whatnot. Pretty cool, pretty accurate to the movie, I suppose. All of these little prods and different things to shock one's testicles. So, all right, moving right along. But really with a figure like this, it's mostly about the face. I mean, this is not some agile guy that's going to be running and jumping and doing a bunch of athletic feats. This is a guy that's going to be standing around in your displays or on your shelf kind of pointing and just looking really sinister. So, did they nail the face? They did okay. I don't think that it is as good as they possibly could have done, but I do like it. I do think it looks pretty good. Something looks just a little bit off though. I don't know if it was more wrinkles that were needed. I don't know if it's just this particular version, if it's just my figure. I don't know if you'll be able to see a bunch of them at retail and pick through them and really pick one with the best paint work, but I do see some minor imperfections in his hair, and I don't know, something seems just a tad bit off with the face, and I do feel like the uniform is a little bit, the colors seem a little washed out. I think this green should be a little more vibrant if I'm not mistaken. But overall, it's okay, and this is one that we've been looking for a long time. I do think overall the paint work is clean. I like his little accolades or whatever here, his all of his little military achievements. I suppose that's what that should be. And down to the boots, which look good. You know, they got a nice shine to them. But, you know, it's not much going on here. It's a pretty plain figure overall. In terms of articulation, this is where I think he's lacking a little bit. Again, he's not somebody that's super agile. This guy's an old man. He was an old man when the movie came out. He was portrayed as an old man. The lack of articulation here still is disappointing, considering that it will lend to what he does, pointing and stroking his chin and doing all of that stuff, and he's not really able to do that. The head is on a ball joint. It's going to look up just that far. It'll look down just that far. You can turn it left to right and do a little pivot. The head will pop off, but I noticed that when I pop the head off, the entire head and peg comes out of the neck here. So I guess you could probably take to this with some pliers and remove the peg and put it back and do some different things as far as swapping out and maybe having some different Imperial folks. But I don't know if everybody would have these same sort of decorations or accolades on his chest here. So I don't know how well that will work. But yeah, getting the head back on is not a problem. Shoulders are on a ball joint. They're going to come up just about that far. Each of them can do a full 360. There is no cut at the bicep. You get a single jointed elbow that does swivel on that joint there. And that's one of my issues. You can't put his hand up to his face. You know, it looks kind of awkward when you put his hands behind his back with this articulation, because there is no double jointed elbow. So it just looks kind of weird. And I don't really like the way that looks. But anyway, you do get a swivel and a hinge on the wrist. You do get waist articulation going forward and back and side to side, just forward and back just a little bit here. There is a T-joint here at the pelvis. You can see that. And so the legs can come up pretty far. He can do a decent split. He does get an upper thigh swivel, and he does get a double jointed knee. There is no rotation at the upper boot. You do get a hinge and a pivot on the foot. So lacking a bit of articulation like most Star Wars Black Series figures are, and that's disappointing. I think this will be the only size comparison, because I think this could kind of highlight my Star Wars Black Series collecting habits and history here. On the far left, we got Luke. I've pretty much gotten rid of most of the Star Wars Black Series figures that I had initially. I initially was collecting the core Rebel Squad, and I ended up selling off all of them. Leia, Han, Chewbacca, the Luke with the with the sweater or whatever that thing is, whatever Luke that is. You guys know which one I'm talking about. Maybe a picture will pop up. But yeah, I ended up getting rid of pretty much all of those. The only things that I've kept from Star Wars Black Series is my Stormtrooper army, which is just under 50 Stormtroopers. Most of them are set up in my office at work. So I don't have Emperor Palpatine here because he's at work as well. And I held on to the Bounty Hunters because I wanted to complete them in Star Wars Black Series, because who knows how long that will take to complete with any of the import companies. And I held on to, I held on to this Luke on the far left because I'm anticipating that at some point Star Wars Black Series may put out an X-Wing in 1/12 scale. So I held on to this Luke. I held on to a couple of these Stormtroopers here, the actual Sand Troopers, aside from my regular Stormtroopers that I have almost 50 of. I held on to a couple of Sand Troopers because I do want to get the dewback at some point. I had to get Tarkin. You know, you have to have him if you have an impressive Imperial force. You got to have Tarkin, you got to have Vader. I held on to this Vader on the far right. Well, this is the 40th anniversary one. I'm actually going to be getting rid of the other one that we got originally, because I do feel this is the better of the two that we've received so far. And that's pretty much it. I think I have Yoda and maybe one or two other figures, but the bulk of my Star Wars Black Series collection is made up of Stormtroopers and Imperial forces. So that's what it is. And you can see how Tarkin stacks up with these guys here. Obviously the Sand Trooper is the same height as the Stormtrooper, so you'll see how that looks. And you can see that Vader is very tall and towering over General Tarkin here. So there was a few other things that I did keep from Star Wars Black Series, mostly vehicles. I have the Land Speeder, I have the Biker Scouts, and I did keep the STCC Jabba. Just, you know, pick and choose here and there. But, you know, I feel like Star Wars Black Series is mostly doing things that I don't really like. So I don't really buy into it. I don't see them really listening to the fans. And I feel like Star Wars Black Series collectors are just, they'll take whatever. You know, a lot of them were collecting a 3 3/4 inch line before that, barely moved at all. So 6 inches, you know, a huge step up to them, really, even though for somebody who's been collecting for a long time and getting into imports and different things like that, you know, you go to Star Wars Black Series and you definitely feel like the line is a little lackluster. At least that's how I feel. That's my opinion on it. But I had to pick up this guy. You know, it's pretty much one that you have to get. Obviously, this is not holding a candle to the Hot Toys version that recently came out, but this is pretty much all you have to represent this character in 6 inch form. So it's a must get. Pretty sure this guy is 1 per case, so it's going to be a little difficult to find. I'm sure people are going to be scalping the hell out of him, but it is what it is. It is still one I would recommend. If you are even collecting at the level that I'm collecting with Black Series, you still have to get this guy. So, all right. Thanks for hanging out. As always, rate, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, peace.
That's crispy.